We continue with the latter, where South Africa and New Zealand renew one of rugby's greatest rivalries today at Ellis Park in Johannesburg. The Springboks come into the first test as the reigning back-to-back World Cup champions, having beaten the All Blacks 12-11 back in the 2023 World Cup final. Today's match is the first of 4 tests between the sides, an unprecedented extended series that takes the rivalry into a new chapter, with New Zealand touring South Africa on a full-scale tour for the first time in 30 years. To unpack the rivalry, we're now joined by Jan De Koning, who's an independent rugby analyst. Jan, good to have you on the program this afternoon. Maybe the first question, why is South Africa versus New Zealand considered rugby's greatest rivalry?
Good afternoon, and thanks for having me on the show. Yeah, it's just historically a very big rivalry, an intense rivalry. It dates back to 1921, so the first time we played them, so 105 years. But some of the biggest clashes, I mean, we own, between the two countries, we owe 70% of the World Cups, 4 to South Africa, 3 to New Zealand. Then Australia's got 2 and England's got 1. So I think they've been the two powerhouses for the last century. Sometimes South Africa is a bit down, sometimes New Zealand's a bit down. At the moment, we're number 1 and 2 in the world, and I think it's just that the two best teams in the world go head-to-head at this stage.
Jan, New Zealand are on their first full-scale tour of South Africa in 30 years. How significant is this tour for world rugby, and what does it mean for South African rugby fans as well?
I think it's as much as people would think it's about bragging rights. I think it's an intense rivalry born out of respect for each other. You know, yes, we've got a rivalry with Ireland or with England and France, and there's other big countries. I think our biggest challenge in the respect is the two countries' respect for each other, and the fact that they always battle for top spot in the world rankings, or they have been for the last 20-odd years.
Yeah, I really want us to crystallize that point. I mean, what is it about these two teams? The Springboks and the All Blacks have one of the most intense rivalries in sport. What is it about the two teams that continues to capture the imagination of South Africans especially?
It's probably because of the passion for the sport of rugby union. In New Zealand, I almost want to say it's a type of religion, and the same in South Africa. I know that you got more soccer fans and a bigger soccer following in terms of sheer numbers, but for sheer passion, you don't beat anything like following the Springboks. People were, when 2017, when the Springboks were losing and we dropped down to number 6 in the rankings, people were burning their Springbok jerseys in public. Now you won't see people are willing to pay 1,000 up to 1,500 rand for a Springbok jersey just to get the latest apparel. And it's the same in New Zealand. When the All Blacks are down, and when we beat them in Wellington last year, they actually, it's like the country goes into depression. And that's just the passion that the two countries have for the sport, for rugby union.
Yeah, Jan, you make a great point. I mean, this is a 4-test series rather than a single encounter. From a fan and commercial perspective, what does that extended series create that a one-off test cannot?
I think it's financially. So we've got to look at the business side of this as well. So financially, this will benefit SARA tremendously. I know that some of the games, like the Sharks game and perhaps Tuesday's Lions game, the Bulls had a good turnout. The Stormers had a really good turnout. So, but the test will all be nearly sold out. I would guess to say they will all be sold out. We'll see it at Ellis Park in a bit of a while. But the fact is, at that rate, and it's an astronomical fees. I mean, the average man in the street can't afford these tickets. You're talking about your cheapest ticket is 600 rand, and then you go up to corporate packages will go up to 5,000-6,000 rand per ticket. But it's an enormous amount of money. And like Mark Alexander, the president of SARA, said earlier this year, this money is to be able to sustain us as number 1, because it not only feeds the Springboks. We're not just paying the Springboks from this, or the Springbok women, or the under-20s. It's also to sustain the franchises and the unions. So this conveyor belt of talent that comes through, we can continue to nourish the conveyor belt of talent. And that takes money. The system takes money. So from that perspective, this is vital for the growth of rugby.
Jan, before we let you go, let's look at preparations for Rassie Erasmus. He has a very deep squad and will have to manage his players across 4 tests. How important is squad depth in a series of this nature?
It will be very, very important. New Zealand's already got a couple of serious injuries. Earlier today, Anton Segner pulled out. He was on the bench, but he's a very physical player. Now, the player that is coming on might be just as passionate about the game, but we don't know if he's going to be the same level of intensity and physicality. And they've already sent 3 or 4 players home, New Zealand. So they haven't even, the first test hasn't even started and they've got injuries. We just got a whole lot of players that came back from injury. So having 3 squads, because Russia's got 44 players in his squad, in his wider squad. So having that kind of depth and having all those players available. I mean, Siya Kolisi is still nursing a hamstrings injury. So having that depth is vital. At least our players are all in squad and with the Springboks, whereas New Zealand starts suffering injuries, they're going to have to fly in players from New Zealand.
Jan De Koning, he's an independent rugby analyst. Big thank you for joining us and giving us some context on a lot of excitement around this fixture between the All Blacks as well as the Springboks.